When I was making my final Team 6 video, I decided to rewatch Slope's Game Room video on Crazy Taxi knockoffs to validate my point on what makes a good Crazy Taxi game. And in that video, Dan mentioned two Sega arcade games I'd never heard of, Jambo Safari and Emergency Call Ambulance, so let's check them out. I'm going to start backwards with the latest game, Jambo Safari Animal Rescue, also called Jambo Safari Ranger Adventure in Europe. This is an adaptation of the Naomi arcade game for a home console. It seems kind of strange to do an adaptation 10 years after the original release, but there's a good reason for this: Wii motion controls. I finally picked up a Wii at a car boot sale, and this was the second game I properly sat down to play, right after Wii Sports of course. Hey, this is my first Wii after all, and man, I ain't afraid to say it, this game is really fun. Maybe even a Wii hidden gem? Alright, so you begin with choosing a character, and then you enter the hub. Within the hub, you can go home and customize a character. Go into the animal sanctuary, more on that later. View the map and see which areas are left to unlock. And into the garage to customize your Land Rovers. Once you enter a stage, this is where the fun begins. The basic premise of this game is to capture any sick animals that require your care. But you can also be a maniac and capture perfectly healthy animals for the fun of it. Either way, you collect points that are used to customize a character and vehicles. I of course decided to have fun with this. Amy looked too much like a ranger. Why not turn her more into a pedestrian? And the Land Rovers, well, they just don't fit in well enough. Of course the animals are running away from me. See, that's far more stealthy. And if the animals happen to be deaf and not hear the roaring diesel engine, I'll be practically invisible to them. Anyway, you capture animals by getting near them and are waiting for the red circle. Then you have to spin the Wiimote like a lasso. And once the circle turns white, do a throw gesture with the Wiimote. Once the rope is attached to the animal, hopefully not by the neck, it's not specified, you must pull back to allow you to get close enough to throw the net in the same way as the rope. You then see a little animation of how many points are collected. The game goes into an arcade mode, where you must collect every type of animal, and each new animal you capture during the arcade mode gains you more points. There isn't really a game over if you don't succeed, since either way, you have captured animals and gained points. It might come as no surprise that each animal has their own sort of difficulty. Some will charge at your vehicle, sometimes you can get tipped over, which is wild. Some are pretty lucid and chill with you capturing them. There are a few ways to see which animal needs care. Sometimes they have a health symbol above them. We can also use the Wiimote to highlight them and see if anything's wrong. Additionally, you also have far-range binoculars that serve the same purpose without you needing to get up close. The map does also show you which animals are around you, which is quite useful. As this is a later Wii title, it really is best played on a flat screen TV, but really it could do with being in high resolution, since it can be difficult to see what animal is in the distance, without basically stopping the gameplay to use the binoculars. On that note, the game does look stunning for a Wii title, but the gameplay is at 30 FPS. Actually, it might be 25 FPS since I'm running a PAL copy. Either way, this makes the game a little hard to control and is prone to slowdowns. When you capture an animal, you do get the choice of if you want to send them to the sanctuary. You only have 3 slots, so if possible, it's best to find out what animal's worth sending back before capturing them. Depending on what is wrong with the animal, you play different kinds of minigames. One where you have to add ointment onto the animal's skin, one where you have to pump the water from the hand pump, one where you have to feed the animal the right food, which with no explanation of the controls, I was really struggling with here. No idea what I was doing wrong. You can't really lose these minigames, as even if you do time out, the caretaker just takes over. If you do capture a healthy animal, you can still help to make them better by petting them. You have to find the right spots to pet. I only did this once because it takes absolutely forever to get the bar up. You can name them if you wish, and of course release them back into the wilderness. So that's essentially the core gameplay. There are side missions you can do, such as taking photographs based on the provided list, which then unlock a telephoto lens that you can use on the hot air balloon. There are missions scattered throughout the maps, such as one where you have to capture 2 animals to see if they're from the same pack, and VIP missions, which I didn't really understand what you have to do. I think this was a skill issue on my end, as sometimes the only indication of what you're meant to do is via the minimap. If you do enough side missions, you unlock further areas. So in a way, the side missions are actually how you progress, not by caring for the animals. They are just mostly there for point's sake, which seems a little backwards, but sure. I really quite like games like this one, where there isn't a set end. I mean, I'm sure you can get to the credit screen by unlocking all the maps and doing all the missions, but it's a game you can come back to at any point, play for an hour and leave it. There's no story mode, no fear of forgetting how to play, it's just a nice game to chip away at. And I look forward to playing it more in the future. But now, let's see how the Naomi version fares. We have some of the same characters as from the Wii version. Though like with 18-Wheeler and King of Route 66, most of the characters have been changed for the home version. We can choose either a tutorial stage or get straight into it. This is good, but it's also cheeky, because once you finish the tutorial, you have to put in another coin to be able to actually play the game. but to be fair, the tutorial is quite comprehensive for an arcade title. The gameplay loop is this. You first get to drive up to an animal and capture it. You can double tap the gas to use nitro, which you can also do in the Wii version by the way. Then you have to throw the rope. This in the arcade has you push a lever, but emulated is just a button. If you can get your pointer as close to the middle of the circle, then you have higher chances of being able to capture, especially when it comes to the net. If you're not centered, you're wasting a throw. Unlike the Wii title, where the premise is to capture ill animals, here you have a star system, based on I guess how valuable / important the animal is. The difficulty is far greater than that of the Wii title. Some animals really do put up a fight, and will happily tip your car over. The rope also breaks much quicker, so you basically have to tap it, then holding the button. Afterwards, use the binoculars to find interesting animals to capture. Though you don't necessarily have to go for them if you don't want to, it's just a visual target of where to go. There's also a hut you can go into. Here, one of the monkeys stole the villager's mask, and when I came back with the wrong one, the villager told me I'm a moron, and I got told never to come back. Ouch. You occasionally also get a 1v1, just you versus the animal the game is making you capture. In the final assignment, you have to capture a prehistoric mammal, which, yeah, sure. This was hard, and I did not get an option to continue. Definitely final boss tier. The final game for today's video is Emergency Call Ambulance. This game is crazy. You play out different cases, with the starting one for example being a car crash, where a young boy has been trapped and now needs to get to the hospital as quick as possible. It's realistic enough at this stage, though a bit harrowing using a minor as a plot point, but it gets crazier from here, with a policeman being shot with a bazooka, and a pregnant woman being pulled out of a burning building. Each time you don't make the finish line, you get a bloody red screen with the text, "I don't want to die," as they lose their pulse. Jesus Christ, Sega. Gameplay wise, it's very similar to 18-wheeler, so it's really fun. Though it's also a bit of a detriment, or maybe it's intentional. You see, anytime you hit anything, the person in the back of the ambulance loses a bit of health, which in this case is the timer. Hit too many things and it's game over. And this is where it's a double-edged sword. You have to drive well, you have to master the turns, and frankly you have to memorize the map like it's the back of your hand. But this is where the game really turns to a coin swallower, because if you hit even one object, especially in the later stages, it's game over. You're just playing for the sake of it at that point. Okay, you might be alright if you hit one, but 2 or 3 it's definitely over. You also do not get continues, you have to start from the beginning. My setup to play this game was hilariously jank. Because my retro gaming PC that's connected to the CRT cannot play this game at full speed, which is a bit of a nice cheat but annoying nevertheless, I had to stream this game via Steam from my main PC. And then to capture this setup I was using my DVD recorder. I have introduced so much latency, but to be honest, even removing the DVD recorder from the setup, it still requires really tight and precise controls from the player. And keep in mind I'm playing this game with a controller. It might be easier with a wheel, but since Supermodel maps the controller well, I think that should be harder with a wheel. I'll have to try it one day, whenever I can be bothered to clean up the cable mess under the TV. For what it's worth, there are only 4 levels and I managed to play 3 of them. The final one has you drive a president to the hospital. Cause of course it does. I love how Sega of course cannot use a real president, so they just say a president of a certain country, and give him an East Slavic surname and a ridiculous smile. I just want to point out as well, you have obviously gathered that this game is very over the top, but I also appreciate how even the environments are crazy. With that apartment fire, why is the rest of the city also on fire? In fact, in this virtual Chicago, everything seems to be going down. Fire engines crash into you, so do police cars, so do the bad guys the police are chasing. It seems like if one thing happens in Chicago, the whole city goes into mass panic. Love it. Well, that's it for the short little video. Just wanted to talk about these games as they seem reasonably obscure, and yet being Sega arcade titles from 1999 are of course extremely fun. Thanks for watching.